So, I cut off ties with my sister. Why? Well, that's going to be the interesting part. I'm going to walk you through this step by step, but let me just tell you, things get crazy. So stick around to the end so you can see why I hate my sister. I've always had issues with my relationships right from my teen years. It seemed quite absurd given the fact that as a teenager, I was obsessed with romance novels. I would spend up to half of my day engaging with what one would call maladaptive daydreaming. I dreamt how my first kiss would be, and how I would be married with my very first love, the perfect soulmate. I was determined to keep myself for marriage. I wanted no heartbreaks, no form of distraction. I just wanted the perfect love story. But little did I know that my life would always mess up with your plan. My sister seemed to have everything going well for her, especially in the love aspect. Although she did not find love on time, she waited until she was 21 years old before she finally allowed the perfect boy into her life. He was truly perfect. The meek, caring, and funny lover every girl desires. My sister got lucky. She didn't only find the love of her life, but our parents and his parents approved of the relationship almost immediately. So it was more of an official thing. It was very obvious that my sister was going to get married to her first and only true love. I felt happy for her, for both of them. My sister's love life was going smoothly and mine was basically in the mud. In my bid to find the perfect match for me, I melted before every guy that gave me even the slightest attention. I had my first kiss at 16 and my first sex at 19. I felt quite guilty and disappointed at all myself because that wasn't what I wanted. I wish my first time was with someone who truly loved me, the Mr. Perfect and only soulmate for me, but that wasn't what happened at all. However, my sister got that. Her first time was with her meek, humble, and perfect boyfriend that everyone in the family knew. Most of the guys I dated in my teenage years kept disappointing me. I couldn't exactly even call them my boyfriends. I was more in a hot mess with them, situationship. I cried several nights because of my complicated relationships. It was either I was too boring for them, they just lost interest, or it was that they were not the kind of men I want to spend the rest of my life with. So, I gave up. I decided to shove down the idea of finding the perfect love and just enjoying being happy for those around me. By the time I clocked 20, love seemed very far away from me. Instead, I became what you can call an observer. Third wheel, if you must. My friends would come to me for comfort when they're emotionally distressed and when they need relationship advice. I would help them with it. Somehow, I always knew exactly what to tell them, and one way or the other, I knew how to fix other people's relationship, but could not do the same on my own. My quote, third wheel business became so serious that I found my comfort in my sister's relationships with their boyfriends. I was their best friend. Sometimes I would tag along with them to their outings and they didn't seem to mind, and in no time, my sister trusted me with her boyfriend. I was more like the sister that he never had. So my sister found no reason to get suspicious of us. In fact, I didn't think there was any romantic attraction between me and her boyfriend. I just admired him, became so fond of his presence. But then, one could say that I also grew obsessed. I've always wanted to go to film school, but my father wanted me to be a lawyer, lecturer, or academic researcher. My father has always been quite the disciplinarian. He kept convincing me to drop my passion for the movie-making industry and focus on getting a more, quote, serious and rigid career. After almost 2 years of his persistence, I finally caved into what he wanted. My father is an influential man with several connections in our community's university. He promised me that if I agreed to study law, sociology, or history in our community's university, he would make sure that I became a lecturer after my studies. So, I agreed. My sister, on the other hand, was quite the lucky one. Our parents always allowed her to follow her culinary dreams. She wanted to be a professional chef, and everyone agreed to it. She traveled to the United Kingdom to study in a culinary school, but she wasn't all too happy about that step. It only meant that her perfect boyfriend, Noah, could not come with her. However, they made plans to see each other at least once every 2 months. Noah proposed to my sister before she traveled to the UK. She was just 24 years old at the time, but it seemed like the perfect step to take. She'd been dating Noah for about 3 years before he officially engaged to her, and it even seemed long overdue. After my sister Amelia traveled, I became much closer to her fiancé, Noah. One major reason why we got really close was because we were both studying at the same university in our area. To make things more interesting, I was doing my BA in sociology, and he also majored in sociology, although as a master's student. This brought us closer, made us best friends. Most of the time, Noah would come to my school dorm just to make me through some difficult sociology courses. My sister knew about our closeness, and she found no reason to detest it. In fact, she enjoyed the idea that her fiancé and sister were close pals. Well, one particular night, things changed between me and Noah. He came to my dorm, and at night, met me in a depressed state. He asked me what happened, but I refused to open up to him. "Let me get you out of this state," were the exact words he said to me. Noah urged me to dress up, then we took a stroll. We stopped by the roadside to get snacks and drinks, and then we went to a particularly calm and enclosed area within the university's compound. There, I finally opened up to him. I told him how I felt hopeless when it came to my love life. I told him how I yearned for love. I even told him how I somehow envied the relationship between him and my sister. I wanted to have a relationship like theirs. Noah comforted me with the words that night. He told me how my sister was not his first love. He told me how he used to be in a messy relationship before he met my sister. Quote, "Your sister gave me no worries. She's calm, and that's like one of the major reasons we're still in this relationship," he said. We kept talking that night, and I even forgot what brought us to the spot in the first place. Somehow, I became so free with him. I began to share more stories about the messy love life with him, including the first night I slept with a guy at 19 years old. One way or the other, the atmosphere got tense. We started talking so deeply, and I began noticing how flawless he looked. Noah seemed to be paying a very close look at me. The next thing I knew, we kissed. It was a brief kiss, but I felt so guilty about it. I left him at the spot that night. When I got back to my dorm, I chatted him up and told him it must never repeat itself again. I told him how I didn't want to betray my sister, and he agreed. The next few weeks went on like nothing happened between the both of us. We still met up and hung out just as friends and in-laws. But there was this sort of awkwardness between us. I could feel it in the air. We never spoke about that night, and we chose to ignore what happened. Well, the awkwardness continued, but I could not stop dreaming about his lips on mine. In fact, my mind frequently visited the idea of, quote, what if I was the one in the relationship with Noah and not Amelia? I was quick to shove such thoughts aside and did not want to betray my sister. It seemed I got my wish, because one particular evening Noah came over to my side after he found out I was having issues with a particular course. In fact, I failed one of my sociology tests with my GPA. He was quite brilliant and wanted to tutor me on that course. He came over to just do that. However, the atmosphere got so intense, and in no time, well, we started making out. That night, I slept with Noah. Yeah, I did. I woke up the next morning and so much guilt was in my eyes. So did Noah. We both did not know what to do. In fact, he was more distraught than I was and could hardly even hold an online conversation with Amelia anymore. We made a promise never to tell Amelia. It was just a one-night stand, one night of pure pleasure. And we were going to let it just slide, just like the kiss we had within the university's compound. However, things don't always go as planned. We continued our secret affair, although my guilt worsened. I became depressed, but my obsession with Noah grew more. We both did not know what to do about the situation. One afternoon, Noah came into my dorm room as usual and we started kissing. I forgot to lock my door. The next thing I knew, my door opened, and it was my sister standing there. I was heartbroken. She rushed out of my dorm, got into her car, and drove off. I watched out the window, but I felt so confused. I didn't know if to go after her or not. However, that was exactly what Noah did. He drove after her. I never expected Amelia to show up like that. She did not inform me about a surprise visit, and I was so sure Noah did not know about the visit either. Anyways, that was the last time I personally heard from Noah. Although, I got to see him on campus one last time, but that was when I spotted him from another building. I didn't wait to see him around after because I was too ashamed to stick around. I dropped out of the community university, left town to a totally new city, just to start a new life and pursue my filmmaking dreams. Well, some few hours after my sister caught me and Noah kissing, I finally found the strength to go back home. I couldn't look my sister in the face. I just went home to apologize to her, but I was not confident to do that. I turned back almost immediately after I got home. My parents tried confronting me, but I did not stick around to hear their backlash that I was the betrayer. The next day, my mother called me on the phone just to say my father wanted nothing to do with me ever again. I also heard that Amelia went back to the United Kingdom very early the next morning. With 3 days after the incident, I packed my things and left town. I began a new life in another city. It was quite hard for me, and I had to hustle for about a year before entering film school. There were 2 things I told myself that day, the day I left my parents' town. The first was, I was on my own and should not consider reuniting with my family again. I was the disappointment, the black sheep of the family, and they were better off without me. The second one was, I wasn't going to let room for love into my life again. I was never really meant for love from the very first day, and when it seemed that I finally enjoyed love, of course, he was my sister's fiancé. It was a forbidden love. I spent the next few years of my life in filmmaking industry, working my butt off. I was content with my new career, at least it was what I always wanted. I did not talk to or see my sister at all throughout those years. I just couldn't. Same with father. I was disowned. The only person that I kept in contact with was my mom, although she did not let my father know she was still talking to me. The next 4 years after I left home were not only spent on my filmmaking career, I also spent those years getting to know myself more, to practice what they call self-love, and to at least forgive myself for my horrible past. However, things did not remain that way forever, and in no time my walls melted. I did not know how or when exactly it started to happen, but then I somehow fell in love. Yeah, once again, a guy named Mason. He was a film director at one of the movie productions I was working with. Mason just made me feel so safe. He made me realize that it isn't too late to find love and that it'll always find us whether we want it or not. 2 years later, Mason proposed to me. It was the most beautiful thing that I've ever experienced. We moved in together and were planning to get married and start a family. Well, that was until my mother called me to just say I was invited to a family gathering. I was surprised. I did not expect any other person within my family to want me around again. However, my mother told me that my father was starting to yearn for my presence. He was getting sick and older, and was afraid that he might not get to see me before he died. I asked about my sister, and Mom told me that she was willing to see me, and had even forgiven the past. I told my mom about Mason, my fiancé, and she said he was of course invited to the family gathering. They wanted to know who their daughter was marrying, and it was understandable. In less than a week, me and Mason packed a few things and headed for my parents' home. He was excited, but I wasn't really feeling the same. We got home and we were greeted with a warm welcome by my mother and father. The living room seemed to be busting with activities. I heard some unfamiliar voices. When I got into the living room, I saw my sister and someone I believed to be her husband. Then my eyes trailed off to the two identical twins playing with toys on the ground. I immediately concluded that they were her children. I stood midway, did not know if to hug her or not. Our mother said that she's already forgiven me, but her looks did not show it. In fact, she looked shocked. I traced the direction of her eyes, and they were fixed upon. They were fixed upon Mason. Mason? Amelia finally broke the silence. Wait, you know him? You both know each other? Were their exact words I uttered out. The next few minutes were dreadful, and I found out that Mason was Amelia's ex-boyfriend, about a year after I left town. Amelia started dating this new guy named Mason. However, no one really knew about him, not even our parents. Amelia left the UK 6 months after the unfortunate incident of 6 years ago. Although, she did not come back home to settle. She began a new life as a professional chef in Manhattan. It was there she met Mason. They dated for almost a year before they split up, but then it seemed those months they dated were really intense. I didn't know about it. I could not know since there was no contact with Amelia all these years. Mason swore to me that he did not know anything about Amelia having a sister. She never spoke to him about me, and she never introduced him to her parents. This wasn't backstabbing, unlike the case with Noah. I did not know she and my fiancé had a relationship in the past. In fact, Mason could not have connected the dots because I changed my last name after leaving my parents 6 years ago. However, Amelia seemed betrayed. She claimed that the reason her and Mason broke up was because there was another girl around the corner he was seeing. She believed I might have been that girl, and that once again I successfully destroyed her relationship. Mason convinced her I was not the girl, and we did not know each other during that period. He even showed her pictures and text messages of the other girl. I felt disappointed that Mason also cheated on my sister with someone else, but I'm not perfect too, so I chose to overlook it and forgive him. Even after Amelia found out that I did not know Mason until 2 years ago, her face still revealed so much hurt. She seemed really hostile towards me and would not accept that I was dating her ex. However, I loved Mason so much and was torn between breaking up with him just to honor my sister or continue the relationship for my happiness. That night, no one slept. We sat down together to settle the issue. After several hours of venting emotions, Amelia finally chose to forgive me. She also said she would not be a threat to me and Mason's relationship. I hugged my sister for the first time in more than 6 years. Tears welled up around my eyes, and in no time they spilled. I felt like a big old burden had been taken off my chest and I could breathe. She introduced her husband and 2 children to me. She might have been hurt in the past by love, but at least she's happy now. Although, to be realistic, I doubt if my relationship with Amelia can ever return to be the same. We can't be as close as before, and there would always be this sort of reminder that I backstabbed her anytime we met. However, no one's perfect. Everyone has baggage. Everyone has a nasty story to tell. That night, I asked about Noah, and Amelia simply replied, I forgave him. He called me several months every day until I finally forgave him. Last I heard, he's doing fine and currently married with a kid. This entire story, I could not help but feel a little bit of heartbreak for Amelia. It just seemed like every serious relationship she got, OP had something to do with it. The craziest part is, at the end with Mason, the fact that OP had no idea. And yet, it strikes again. Guys, let me know if you think that their relationship can ever fix itself, or if they're going to be a little distant, well, probably for the rest of their life. Tell me if you've ever had a relationship with a family member or sibling that went something along these lines. Drop your thoughts down below, guys. Let's talk about it in the comment section, and we'll look at the final story of the video. The title is, I'm 24 and female. My boyfriend said that I'm not allowed to criticize slavery because I'm white passing. He said that I would have lived a comfortable life under slavery. We argued, and now he's giving me the silent treatment. We've been in a relationship for 4 years and lived together. For both of us, it's the first serious relationship, and although it hasn't always been easy, we've never had any significant problems. We're on the same page on most topics: racism, politics, finances, etc. Or so I thought. Now, with all these issues going on, we've been talking about race a bit more than usual. For the record, I'm biracial, but I have the most, consider, Eurocentric features, so a lot of times people can't really tell where I'm from. Fast forward to a few days ago. We were watching 12 Years a Slave, and I made some comments about how horrible slavery was. That's when he dropped the bomb that I actually should not criticize slavery at all, since I look white enough that I would have benefited from the system. Honestly, it felt like he wanted to say something like that for a long time. I asked him WTF he meant by that, and he said me complaining about racism just belittles the experience of black people. I told him that I would not have benefited from slavery at all, since I'm literally 50% black, despite my looks. He said that even if I did not directly benefit, I would have lived a, quote, comfortable life in that era. I asked how, and he said slave owners kept mixed women as mistresses, so I would have spent most of my time being treated well and popping out babies. He made it sound like it was a complete luxury. At this point, I was so appalled and disgusted that I called him an ignorant idiot and we started arguing. He said that I'm just an exotic-looking white girl who's trying to feel oppressed and that I'm just as privileged as him. I told him that he really has no idea what he's talking about, and then he started ignoring me. We haven't spoken for a few days, although he tried to initiate sex a few days ago and seems to be warming up to me again, and I really don't know what to do. He's never said something so ridiculous. I'm just so angry at his stupid comments and immaturity. Okay, let's check out this comment. Especially someone who would have been a slave. No matter how white passing you were, if you had an enslaved parent, you'd also be a slave. A nice life as a mistress? No, she'd have a life as someone's property. By his logic, does he think he should not criticize slavery because he actually would have benefited from it? OP should dump his racist butt ASAP. So many red flags popping left and right, I don't even know how you can see. So guys, let me know what you think of that comment. Drop your thoughts down below. I want to thank you for joining me to watch these stories in this video. And just know, I have daily videos across all 3 of my channels. If you want to subscribe to the other channels, you can find them in the description below, guys. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.